Begin the mission.
Okay, let's see how this goes. Hi everyone, this is Mobile Suit K9, trying something a little different today. Early in the week I asked if some of you would want me to upload some full gameplay videos. Out of the few who actually did vote, it was about an 81% yes. So here we go. This video is going to have two matches with the GM Sniper 2. The first one takes place before the June update. The second one is after. This first match took place sometime after I released the video on the GM Sniper 2. So I had already had some practice with it. Before I made the video, I had about 3 to 4 weeks practicing with the GM Sniper 2. I'm not sure if I would call this my best performance with the GM Sniper 2, but it would definitely have to be in the top 3. Now I figured I would take this time to update you guys on the state of the channel. Nothing's really going to change, but I just figured I'd let you guys in on some stuff. Now, if you're wondering what mobile suits I might cover next, there is a list of requirements that I'm following. The first one being that it needs to be available in the data point store. If it's not available in the data point store, then it's not going to get covered. In most cases. At least not in the historical styles that I'm doing. The reason is because I figure it wouldn't be that much fun for someone watching the video and then they go turn on the game and they realize they don't have that mobile suit. This way, even if they don't have the mobile suit, they can go to the data point store and it'll be available right there, assuming they meet the rank requirements for it. The second requirement that I have is that it needs to be a mobile suit that is not used that often. That doesn't mean it needs to be a bad mobile suit. And just because I've covered a mobile suit doesn't mean I think it's a bad mobile suit. In fact, I've had fun using all the mobile suits that I've covered in videos so far, with the exception of 2. You can take a guess of which those 2 are. And lastly, for the most part, I'm trying to do 4 sets of each. So 4 supports, 4 raids, and eventually 4 generals. It was going to be 3 sets of each. But the thing is, with the supports, the GM Sniper 2's video was not meant to be part of the series. That was a bit different, and then later on, as each video started progressing more and more towards the historical side, it just got thrown in there into that category. So that meant I needed to get 4 raids as well. And now, if you've been doing the math, you know generals are going to be coming up next. The thing with the generals though is that they are my favorite class. So it's going to be a little hard separating my bias and thinking, okay, is this mobile suit in need of a buff or is it not used as often? Because you guys know, if you've been watching the videos, you know I'm not a meta player. I don't use the mobile suits that are commonly used by other players. And another thing for me is that the general that I am the best at, as in my favorite #1 mobile suit in the entire game, is the mobile suit that a lot of people claim and argue that is in need of a buff. And to a certain extent, I kind of see their point, but the fact that I've had so much practice with it, it almost seems like giving it a buff is just going to make me a lot better and a lot harder for other players to compete with. It's not to say I would complain about getting a buff, I'm just saying I don't really need it. Like, I know how to use that mobile suit so well that a buff is unnecessary. Now, I think I can use another level, like give it a level 5. I think that'd be awesome with level 5 weapons. That way I can take it into even higher cost matches. But oh well, I guess we'll have to wait and see. At the same time, I figure I'm going to cover the generals a little differently. After all, I did cover raids and supports differently from one another as well. For supports, it was more or less about how bad of a situation they've been in for a while and how much they need a buff. For raids, it was about finding which ones can players use that is not going to ruin the fun for everyone else. Now, I already have 3 out of the 4 generals already picked out that I'm going to be covering. The 4th one is still up in the air. I'm not too worried about it since I'm pretty sure I'll figure it out once I start playing more generals. One thing I'm not sure about, however, is what I'm going to be doing after those 4 videos are released. I could go back to the supports again and do another 4 videos on the supports. Or I might try doing something a little differently. Now, a while back I asked some of you guys, what would you like me to do if I ever reach 1,000 subscribers? Right now I'm currently above 750. By the end of those 4 videos, if I get to 1,000 subscribers, then I'll probably do a tutorial video, since that was voted on the most when I asked you guys. Alright, I guess that's it for the video. See you guys. Oh wait, you guys are still here? Right, I guess I'll talk more about the GM Sniper 2. You know, I really gotta give credit to Flailthroughs. I don't know how he does this every day. Talking on the mic and just like talking without a script is really hard. I tried doing this in the beginning when I first launched the channel. I launched the channel with 5 videos. all of them with commentary, and nobody watched them. But that's actually a good thing because they were terrible, so I'm glad nobody watched them. Anyways, back to the GM Sniper 2. Since I've been practicing with it for about 2 months now, I have to say I really do like it now. If I'm ever on a team between 400 and 500 and nobody on my teammates pick a support, then they have no one else to blame but themselves for me picking the GM Sniper 2. It's just extra rewarding when you're using a mobile suit that is extra limited, and yet you're able to perform well with it. If you're using a mobile suit that is part of the modern meta of the game, then it's like, of course you're going to be good, or you should be good. So I'm really impressed when I see a player using a mobile suit that is difficult to use or is known to be difficult to use and is rarely seen out in matches. At the time of this match, I started to think that maybe the GM Sniper 2 wasn't really in need of a buff. It was just something that was being misunderstood and no one really understood how to use it. There are moments when I'm doing really well with it, but that's between 400 and 450. So far, I think there was one time in a 500 cost match where it was an ace match and I ended up being the ace. And that was me trying really hard not to be the ace. I was trying to avoid getting kills, and yet somehow I ended up getting 3 kills with it. And that was enough for me to be the ace. I don't think I have a recording of it. Either way, it doesn't really matter because we lost that match. Something I've noticed when using this suit is that it seems like whenever you use it, or whenever I use it, everyone on the other team gets this extra life hidden skill. Because there are several moments when I take a shot at an enemy when it should normally take them out, and yet their health bar stops just with an inch of the life. And so I often just end up getting assist kills for it over actual kills. Normally getting an assist doesn't bother me, but when it happens so often with the GM Sniper 2, it's almost comical. Or it's like, yeah, I'm going to be able to do damage to the enemy, but I'm not going to be able to do enough to take them out. But at the same time, that's fine because this is a team sport, so my teammates should be there. Speaking of teammates though, in this match there is an Ifrit Jaeger in here. And I have to say, it is a full-on insult to supports everywhere that there is a general out there with a sniper and has a shotgun for a secondary weapon and also has stealth, when really something like that should go to the GM Sniper 2. But no, it has to go to a general. Also, I don't know for sure, but does the Ifrit Jaeger have a dodge roll? If it has all of that, then I don't care if it's on my team. I hate it. I think Ifrit Jaegers are an insult to supports everywhere. I know it's not their fault. I know they were just made that way, but still, the fact that they were made that way is enough to make me say it's an insult. Okay, so that's going to do it for this first round. Honestly, I was surprised by my performance. I normally tend to top out at about 3 to 4 kills. I didn't do that much damage, but that's fine. I'm just surprised I didn't get top assist score. Ultimately, I think what it came down to was the fact that the enemy team didn't pick a raid. On this map, I'm really surprised they didn't go with the raid, since it is very support friendly.
Begin the mission.
And now we begin the second match. This is after the June update. To be honest, the GM Sniper 2 feels exactly the same. That could be just because of the way I'm using it. I've noticed it does have more range strength, however, once you go to the 500 and 550 cost matches.
The enemy has secured a beacon.
I would say my performance in this match isn't as good as the previous match. However, the reason why I picked it was because of the ending. This ending probably has to be one of the best ones I've ever had in my entire time playing the game. And it shows when it comes to winning and losing, it comes down to who makes the least amount of mistakes. You know, once again, I gotta say, it's really hard making these videos with commentary, without a script. Especially for an introvert like myself. It's like when I first started making this video, I thought it was going to be a lot easier. And to a certain extent, it is easier than the videos that I tend to release with the documentary styles. But it still requires me to put in some effort. Back to the match. From what I remember, no one really gave me a difficult time here. There is one raid, but the raid doesn't really spot me that often. That's where the silhouette of the GM Sniper 2 really comes in handy, because it's not a bulky mobile suit, so it doesn't really fit the profile of a support. So when the raid is hunting you down, it can't single you out as easily. Another thing is that I noticed that on this map, the GM Sniper 2 actually does pretty well on, and pretty consistently as well. And keep in mind, I'm not going above the buildings to snipe on people from above. I'm staying on the ground and moving around with my teammates. That's not to say that there's anything wrong with sniping on people from above, provided you can actually provide support for your teammates. But for me personally, I didn't start doing well with the GM Sniper 2 until I got off the rooftops and just stayed on the ground. I wasn't exactly terrible sniping from above, but it was just mid. In this match specifically, my team does pretty good early on. It's not until about halfway through the match where my team makes the mistake of getting too spread out. Now, I'm not really someone who believes that the team should always be bunched up. In fact, I get pretty claustrophobic when everyone's bunched up and I can't really get a shot in because everyone's blocking my shot. And I'm scared about staggering someone from behind. But I do believe everyone should be relatively close to one another. Another fatal flaw about bunching up really close to one another is that if the enemy team is communicating really well with one another, they can surround you and then the entire team will be getting attacked from all directions. I know this is sort of off topic, but it sort of reminds me of when the Romans ended up bunching up all of their forces because they outnumbered Hannibal's forces. And as a result, Hannibal ended up surrounding the Romans despite being outnumbered because he was able to attack them from all directions. Now clearly that was ancient history going back to the Second Punic Wars. And this is just a game of giant robots. But I've seen on multiple occasions where my team is bunched up and attacking in one direction while the enemy team starts to respond on the other side and attacks us from behind. From what I've seen, when a player starts to spam bunch up, it really means that they just want to play extra aggressively, and as a result they charge in far ahead and the team can't keep up with them. Now of course there are the occasions where they're right. The team is way too spread out and we need to regroup. And that actually does happen in this match. We start doing well, but then later on we get spread out, and as a result the enemy team starts to come back. Now of course I would say you can't really tell a support to bunch up, because supports are typically slower, as I figure 90% of all supports are slower than everyone else. So if someone is telling a support to bunch up, it's not because the support failed to bunch up with the rest of the team, it's because the team left it behind. Or in other cases, it's because they're not aware of the support's position. They can be going beyond the support's firing range, meaning the support won't be able to back them up. Or it could be that the support isn't that skilled yet. Anyways, I think it's going to be number 3 that's going to get spread out from the rest of us. I'm not exactly sure what happens, but at some point, number 3 or someone else is going to get so far away from the rest that it's going to make us lose our formation. Now it could be just me, but despite the other team making a pretty good comeback, it never felt like it was getting too stressful. That could be just because I was playing support, and even though I came close to the front, I was never 100% in the front. But maybe it felt different for my teammates. In fact, it most likely did get stressful for 1 or 2 teammates, in particular the moments that I remember them being separated from the rest of us. Let's see, it's been about a good month since the GM Sniper 2 was buffed, allegedly. To be honest, I don't see it. I don't perform bad with it, but I perform the same as I've been doing since early June, so it's hard for me to say that it's been improved. Really, when it comes down to it, it's still very much limited. Unlike other supports above 400, it can't stunlock anybody. It has very limited weapons. A general can very easily bully it. Earlier in this video, I think it's a Jetta that basically stunlocks me. So overall, I have to say, when it comes down to it, the problem with the GM Sniper 2 is the same problem that a lot of other generals suffer from. And that is, there's no way to get out of stunlock. They're really slow compared to generals and raids. Not saying it should be as fast as a raid. I think the problem stems from the idea that the developers had, which was they really wanted this to be a team-based game. Now at its core, it still very much is a team-based game. However, you have generals and raids that have all these skills and weapons that basically almost encourage them to play as individuals instead of playing as a team. But the supports get left behind because they think generals are always going to be around to help them out. Even if that was so, there's no way to get out of a stunlock if you're a support, unless it's a 650 or 700 cost mobile suit, and even then there are still limitations. For example, if you're using the support version of the Zeta Gundam, yes, you can dodge roll when your HP drops below 30%. But if you're a support and your HP is going down below 30% really fast, that means you're pretty much dead already. Then you have the Delta Gundam, which to me was almost a perfect support really, and then it gets nerfed. And add the fact that it has very low HP. And you also have to consider that once a Delta Gundam's HP drops below a certain point, its beam resistance basically drops down to 0. So basically, supports are still screwed in the end. To be honest, I've been thinking, and I figured this is never gonna happen, but maybe just forget about this imbalance of skills between raids and supports, and let supports have skills like dodge roll or a double tackle, and just let all 3 classes fight it out. Supports are gonna have type advantage against generals, and raids are still gonna have type advantage against supports. But this way, supports wouldn't have such a hard time. But again, I figured this is never gonna happen. But hey, maybe for Gundam Battle Operation 3, it'll be like that? Yeah, I probably won't. Oh well, maybe someday we'll get a well-balanced Gundam game. Maybe. Alright, and that's gonna do it for this match. As you clearly saw, the last guy I took out ended up staggering himself, and that basically cost his team the win. And I was also really lucky that the time limit ran out, because I'm pretty sure that Jim Quell would have taken me out. So really, it just comes down to who makes the least amount of mistakes. Obviously, we made mistakes of our own when we got too spread out, and that gave the other team an opening to catch up to us. Well, that's gonna do it for this video. As always, this has been Mobile Suit K9, signing off now.